One of my favorites and really one of the best performing that we've had so far this year. So if you're a mid-handicapper and you are not sure what irons you should be playing, well, you've come to the right place. We are talking about the top irons for mid-handicappers in 2022. Talking about you players that are 15 to 20, maybe even like a 22 handicap. We'll talk about some of our favorites, some of the best, and really what differentiates them from each other, and maybe who they're best geared for, kind of within that player category. Because we can have some irons that have thicker soles, thinner soles, more offset, less offset. Those are all geared towards certain ball flight, certain swing characteristics, and you need to know really which ones are best for you. So let's get started. One of my favorites and really one of the best performing that we've had so far this year is our Callaway Rogue St Max. Now, of the ones that we are going to talk about today, this will have the least amount of loft, the 7-iron coming in at about 27.5 degrees. That could result in some lower ball flight. Now, typically what manufacturers will do and what Callaway has done is they've added lots of tungsten to the lower rear portion of the club. As we add that additional weight low and back, that does help to launch the ball a little bit higher. So launch angle might come out a little low, but it's not a guarantee. Typically with that lower loft though, we will see a reduction in spin. Now that could be a good thing. That combination of a nice high launch with some low spin typically means these things are going to go forever. And as long as that launch angle is high enough, we probably will still have a really nice iron or a really nice ball flight coming into the green. Holding the green won't be a problem. Now let's talk about some of the other features and really who this is for. So we're going to be talking about a couple other irons, and really this one to start with, the width of the sole is going to be pretty much in the middle of all of them. The wider the sole you have, that helps on fat shots. If you tend to hit the ball a little bit heavy, you're going to want the widest sole out there to prevent the club from digging into the ground too much. One other feature is the amount of camber. So while the sole is not very wide, it is going to have the most camber of all of those. This is another feature that can help prevent digging. What's nice about using the camber, the roundness of the sole to prevent the digging, is you can effectively create the same amount of forgiveness without having a really big club. Whenever we put the Rogue St Max down, has a thick top line, but it is not a very big club overall. It's got a pretty good look overall to it. And we will see that all these irons do have some element of hollow body construction to them as well, and that really helps the balls go really far. So let's test them out. It's a really fun category to test out. Typically, these things go the farthest of the bunch. And I hit that one pretty solid. Be pretty interested to see how far that one does carry. But really, when you do get into this kind of mid-handicap iron category, it's a little bit of a give and take. They're not going to be the most forgiving irons out there, but there is still a lot of technology to where even some slight mishits should still go almost the exact same distance as your solid ones. So let's talk about that last one. We see a ball speed of 136. And we see a launch angle of 17, and that's going to be one of the numbers we want to pay attention as we're comparing all these today. And here's what I really expected to see out of this particular iron, because it is the strongest lofted. That backspin came pretty low, 4,800. It is pretty low, even for me when it comes to a 7-iron. Now you do have some options out there though. If you really love this iron, you're launching it really high, but you do want to get the spin a little bit higher, you can do some changes in the shaft. That can help. We're using a little bit of a heavier weight steel shaft here today. You could also just change your ball. You can go into a higher spinning tour level ball. That'll help the ball to hold better when it does land on the green. But really, these things are pretty awesome. Carried at 230. I'll take that out of a 7-iron any day and only 3 yards offline. Rogue St Max, again, awesome club, especially if you're already a high ball hitter. This would be a good one for you to test out. Next one up, we are going to go with TaylorMade Stealth. So new this year, and we will see some similar technologies in the Stealth as we see with all these irons, and that is a hollow body construction, but some kind of polymer filling. We have some dampening material in the back of the club that just makes these clubs feel like they are a solid one-piece club. TaylorMade's been doing this for a number of years, introducing our through speed slot to the bottom, and really this slot just allows the bottom of the club to flex. So whenever you hit a ball low on the face, the ball speeds stay very similar to if you did hit it in the middle. Now, one of the biggest differences you will see when it comes to the Stealth. We have a slightly wider sole compared to our Rogue St Max, but there's almost no camber. Like if I'm looking at this, the bottom of the sole is almost flat. So that can do two things. We have the wider sole, which can help prevent digging, but because it is so flat, the club can still cut through some rough pretty well considering the size of the club. It really just depends on some of the conditions that you run into on the course. Does your course you play have really long, maybe some wet rough, or if it's shorter, pretty well cut, you may not need some of the benefits that you see here, but either way, it's going to be super forgiving. All of these have a fair amount of offset. These are really designed in general for players that do tend to fight that fade or maybe even a slice. What I like about the Stealth, put it down, it does have a slightly smaller look compared to the Rogue St Max. Not good or bad, it just depends on really what your eye likes to look at. Let's put this one to the test. And again, this one is about a degree, maybe a degree and a half stronger compared to our last. So we'd expect probably similar launch angle, but if I can hit a similar shot, probably pretty slightly higher spin. And that one was struck ever so slightly off the toe. We are overdrawing it a little bit, but I'm venturing to guess it's probably still going to go pretty far. I am curious to see what that spin comes out with the shot that I just hit. So we see launch angle of 17 degrees, and spin did climb ever so slightly. I mean, honestly, it's almost the same. Part of that being the little bit of an overdraw, that extra little bit of face closure that I had there, that just took off that little bit of extra loft this iron has. Really, I almost hit these two shots identical. Carry again, 231. Stealth still feels awesome. Again, I would think this was a solid one-piece club if I didn't know any better. Now, the last one we're going to talk about is always popular. They make some of the best irons, and that's going to be our Mizuno JPX921 hot metal. Chromoly construction helps to increase our ball speeds, and really it's a beautiful looking iron. Mizuno makes some of the best. Now, taking a look at our JPX921 hot metal, we will see it has a wide sole, but the very trail edge of the sole does have a little bit of a grind to it, effectively making the sole slightly narrower maybe than visually it does look. So this will be the iron that would probably be the least forgiving when it does come to those fat shots. It's still super forgiving, but if I have to compare it to the other ones, it will want to dig the most compared to all three. It is going to have the least amount of offset compared to the other two we spoke about as well too. Still has a lot, but maybe you just fight a fade, or you don't want to go the other way, you don't want to draw it too much. 921 would be an awesome one for you to test. This should be the highest launching, highest spinning of the bunch, coming in at about 29 degrees of loft. Really all of these only have about a degree, maybe 2 degrees of separation between them. Any little changes in your swing can make up for that, be it good or bad. But it does have a little bit more loft, so if you do tend to hit the ball a little bit low, compared to the three that we're talking about, 921 would be an awesome one for you to test. Let's hit it. We'll pay attention to that launch angle number, and really curious to see what the spin looks like as well. Okay, that shot was almost identical to the one I hit with Stealth. Just hit ever so slightly out here on the toe. With that a little bit of extra closure to the face, I'm expecting it to probably launch pretty similar. Spin will probably be a little lower than I'd actually want on course. But again, I already tend to play a little bit of a draw, even fight that hook at times. I'm trying to stay away from offset. All these irons have a lot built into it. And we're seeing almost identical performance out of all three of these clubs. Ball speed 136, I don't think that number has changed between all three of them. Launch angle 17, basically the exact same for all three. And backspin coming in at about 4,500. Again, for the last two, a little bit of that was me with some extra face closure. But nonetheless, we can see all of these perform awesome. They all went even the exact same distance. It's going to be really coming down to what do you like to look at, which one feels the best to you when you hit it. And then you do need to find a knowledgeable fitter, because they can then help guide you through some of the specifications that you may need to make the club that you like work best for you. What length do you need? Lie angle? What should your set makeup be? Most of you don't need to be carrying 3-through pitching wedge, probably not even a 4-through pitching wedge. Your fitter can help you get through that decision-making process and really find the clubs that are best for you. And there's no better place to do it than at GOLFTEC. So what you need to do, get online, find your local GOLFTEC, and get your club fitting scheduled today.